audience, Texas Stadium in Dallas with the hole in the roof, home of America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, tonight featuring America's most exciting motorsport, AMA Supercross. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lone Star State. I'm Dave Despain. This is Larry Myers, ESPN's exclusive Camel Supercross coverage down to the final 3 races. And, Larry, I got to ask you, who would have thought back when this season started that we would reach this point with 3 riders only 6 points apart for the championship?
Boy, not me, Dave. We've talked on and off about who's going to be where, but this situation is unbelievable. You know what is so tricky is to take a look at the way these guys got here. Damon Bradshaw has been the dominant rider. He's done it through being aggressive, but look at this. When he was not being dominant, he was either falling off or he was getting a DNF. And on the other side of the fence, we have Stanton and Bale. Now, Bradshaw's won 7 times. Keep that in mind. Stanton has won only twice. Bale has won only 3 times, yet they're tied, virtually tied. They're neck and neck as we go to the wire. So, you know, they did it through consistency. And I don't know what to say. 3 races to go. Do you let it hang out like Bradshaw has done? Do you go for broke, or do you maybe play it a little bit on a conservative side like the Honda guys have been doing? I don't know. It's up in the air.
I think we should pass that question right along to the floor of the stadium for a man who correctly answered the championship question 3 times. Bob Hurricane Hanna. What do you think it's going to take to be #1 this year?
Thanks, Dave. The key for all 3 of these riders are to ignore the championships even going on and ride like they have all year long. If they slow up now and try to avoid mistakes, that's exactly what's going to happen. They'll make mistakes. They need to be aggressive. They need to be wild if necessary, but they do need to win races if they want to win this Supercross Series championship. Back to you, Dave.
All right, sounds like Hanna thinks they're going to have to go for it. Let's take a look at the racetrack on which the championship strategy, whatever it may be, will play out.
Dave, if we were looking in that hole in the top of Texas Stadium, this is what the track would look like. But to get a real perspective of what the riders will be going through, we put a couple of Honda riders, Jean-Michel Bale, #1, Jeff Stanton, #2, on the track to take a parade lap. Now watch, coming up, a big, long triple jump, a real crowd pleaser. Now watch what they jump into. Sand. That could be a problem. The front wheel wants to go a different way than you want the motorcycle to go. We'll see how that affects the racing this evening. A lot of jumps here in Dallas, a lot of tight corners. The dirt itself was wet when they brought it in. Forecast is maybe showers this evening come down through that roof, and that's going to turn that clay, Dave, into a slippery, sliding mess.
Right now, the traction appears to be very good, and you can bet that these 2 guys who own the last 3 championships in this series would like to be out there racing each other tonight, but there's going to be one more guy in the mix, and that's Damon Bradshaw.
And he is, like those 2, an excellent mud rider. So no matter the conditions, I look for a battle between the 3 of them.
Well, Bale wins the parade lap. 40,000 fans are ready for the real thing. We'll be back at Texas Stadium right after this. This year to bring that title back home, here is Damon Bradshaw, the hot shot, looking for his 8th victory here this evening. Guy Cooper carrying the Suzuki hopes as we go to the highlights of the first of 2 qualifying heat races. And Larry, the top 4 will be moving up, so it's time to get on the gas early. Heat race #1 at the gate, and here's the launch. Bit of a shower already beginning to fall as Bradshaw gets a great start. #6, Jeff Ward tucking in behind, but it'll be Bradshaw who leads him off the first turn with Stanton to race with.
Well, let's not forget this is a heat race. Like you said, the top 4 qualified. That is what is running through the minds of the top riders at this particular time. They do not want to go through a semifinal if it can at all be avoided. So they're going to play it kind of cool here. I think probably early in the season you would see Jeff Stanton going up to challenge Damon Bradshaw. But I think now with the points battle the way it is, Dave, he's going to be content. I think that's what's running through his mind to finish in that #2 position. So throughout this first heat race, Bradshaw kind of runs away with it. Stanton was sitting back there and watching and maybe testing some lines and watching where Bradshaw would be going. Oh, and as I said that, he gets a little bit wild crazy and tries to launch himself over the hay bales.
Yeah, he knows he doesn't want to use that line. Jeff Ward is the man that he's racing with. And Wardy has announced that he'll go in for surgery after this weekend's race. He gives away a spot here to #15, Brian Swink. Now, Brian is the Eastern Region 125 champion. He's already locked up the crown, and so he's decided to focus on the 250 class the rest of this year, knowing that that's where he'll be in 1993. He knows he's going to have to learn how to beat Jeff Stanton. He figures this is a good place to start.
Boy, I can't imagine. How would you like to be in a heat race? Take your buddy from Michigan. They're both the Wolverines, so to speak. take your buddy out in a heat race who's in contention for the championship, which he almost did with that last block pass effort. And look at this kid go.
He's a serious racer. He's made the point throughout the year that he wanted to get that 125 crown on ice and go out and race with the big guys. You won't find a bigger guy to race with than Jeff Stanton. He's doing a heck of a job.
He definitely is. He's going to... I'm going to tell you what's going to happen here. If he keeps messing with Stanton, Stanton is not going to hesitate to park him. You know they're friends, but Stanton has no time to play that game with Brian Swink at this particular time. And look at Guy Cooper coming up on the outside. Whoa, two Suzuki riders. Swink takes them both down, or Cooper took them both down. I'm not sure who did what.
It looked a little like Swink may have lost the rear and slid into Cooper. Let's take another look.
Here it is. Swink had to hit the brakes, and yeah, he was just a little bit slow, and I don't think Coop anticipated that slow up on Swink's part. He was ready to shoot underneath both of them, and unfortunately, Swink's rear end was there, and he nailed him.
Stanton had to be happy to see that happen. As Bradshaw takes the checker, that got the heat off Jeff, and he comes home with a second-place finish. The top four, again, making the transfer to the championship main event. Ward and Cooper get the 2 spots. Cooper up off the ground to complete the transfers from heat race number 1. The second of the qualifiers, JMB. Jean-Michel Bayle, the reigning champ, preparing to go to war against Jeff Chicken Matasevich and Ronnie Tishner, number 23. There's Mike Kudrowski, number 3. So it'll be the Kawasaki's here to challenge the reigning series champ, man who's been something of an enigma in this 1992 season. Heat race number 2, ready to pick 4 more finalists for the main event. Looks like number 11, Denny Stevenson, will drag race Jeff Matasevich into the turn. Jean-Michel Bayle almost got squeezed into the hay bales, and coming out with the lead is Matasevich.
Bayle seems to find these little tiny holes. There was no way he could put his motorcycle in there. He lifted his foot completely off the peg, jammed it down on top of the bale to take that line through the corner. So it was a Bayle on a bale, I guess you could say. In any event, he is just a remarkable man.
He's been working miracles all season long. After a slow start, he has emerged as the leader by 2 in the standings. He took the lead early from Matasevich, and I don't think there was any big surprise there. Matasevich has shown flashes of brilliance this year, but has struggled with the injury that he suffered last year. Stevenson, number 11, with a good ride. You see Kudrowski back there trying to play catch-up on number 3 and work his way into a transfer spot. You sure don't want to be sitting in 5th in the heat race.
No, you sure don't. You go to the semifinals, that means one more time you have to be on the track. It tires your body just that much more, and of course, wear and tear on the motorcycle. Stevenson, meanwhile, is another rider that's coming off an injury. We did not see him at all the early part of the season, but since coming back, he's gotten stronger on a weekly basis, and right now he's looking pretty darn good. He was just passed by Kudrowski, but he's doing well out there.
Pretty easy evening here for Jean-Michel Bayle in the qualifying heat race with no Stanton or Bradshaw to deal with. He just took the opportunity to survey the racetrack, and likewise Matasevich was pretty solid in second spot. I would love to tell you that it was the most exciting 10 laps in the history of Supercross. It wasn't. It was a cakewalk for JMB. So he takes the checkered flag well in front of Matasevich, and they both start thinking in terms of what's going to happen in the main event. Kudrowski and Stevenson get the last 2 transfers. Let's hear from the reigning Supercross champion.
Jean-Michel, do you like having an easy qualifier like that?
Yeah, you know, I have a good start, and I'm feeling very good on this track. It's kind of, you know, a bit muddy, so I like a lot, and I hope it's going to be the same in the main now.
Do you think you're going to have a great start to win the main on this track?
Oh, you know, this track is very technical, and it's very hard to ride, you know, with the rain and everything. So I think it's going to be very technical, so I don't think we need a good start. I think I can win.
Good luck in the main.
Thank you.
I don't know when I've heard JMB sound more confident. Brian Swink breaks out the umbrella. The semifinals will run in the rain here at Texas Stadium. We'll be right back. A stormy night in Dallas, Texas. The rain pouring through the hole in the roof of the stadium as we prepare for semifinal action. Brian Swink looking things over and knowing that racetrack is going to be very, very slippery as he goes up against Doug Dubach, number 12 of Team Yamaha, in the first of the 2 semifinals, which will transfer 5 riders to the main event.
Earlier had an opportunity to talk with our counterpart on the ground, Bob Hanna. He won here in '78. I'll get back to that in a second, Dave, in the mud, and I'll tell you a little bit about it.
Here is Swink, drag racing with number 10, Larry Ward, to turn 1. Dubach tucks in on the inside line. Swink comes out with the lead, and if his race with Stanton in the heat was any indication, he'll be a tough man to pass.
He definitely will be. Swink grew up in Michigan, and they do a lot of this mud-type riding, sliding around in the slippery-type clay. Swink knows how to handle it. He's a very competent mud rider.
Good battle for second. Number 12 is Dubach. 59 is Michael Craig. Number 10, Larry Ward. Whoa! Ward slips in there and becomes the meat in the sandwich. Takes over the third spot from Craig. That was a good move.
It certainly was a surprising move. And now he set his sights on Doug Dubach. Question is, will Dubach want to battle with him, or will the experience of Dubach say, hey, on the slippery track, you want it that bad, you can have it?
As you mentioned, Larry, the racetrack was already pretty soggy when they hauled the dirt in to build the stadium. Another pass by Ward. Very aggressive, going to the front. Dubach says, and they go side by side up through the whoop-de-doos. Ward's got the good line, pulls off the spot. We mentioned that the dirt was already wet, Larry, when they brought it in. There's no place for this rain falling now to go. It'll make it very slippery, which leads us to your Bob Hanna story.
Well, when Bob Hanna was here in 1978, Keith McCarty, his mechanic, weighed the motorcycle and Bob when the race was over. And get this, the combined weight was something like 800 pounds. This dirt is a clay base, and it sticks to everything that it touches. So every time Bob Hanna's wheel went around, it spit a little bit more up on him. And 800 pounds when they finished. Are you putting me on? That's about 300 pounds or 400 pounds of mud that he hauled around throughout that race.
That's an amazing test of the motorcycles here as we see Doug Dubach battling with Michael Craig, and that is now the race for third and fourth. They are both solidly in transfer positions, but it's the best race on the track. And again, I think the issue is how they deal with the slippery conditions. Swink obviously having no problem whatsoever as he leads it out front.
Looks to me like he's been riding a 250 all season long, when indeed, as you mentioned, he has already captured the 125 championship. We saw Jeremy McGrath, who was leading the West Coast 125 series, do the same thing when the riders were back in the East. He jumped on the 250s, and he did remarkably well.
We'll see McGrath later tonight in the 125 class, and it sets up an interesting situation regarding the end of the year. We'll get into a little later. Brian Swink basically has decided not to race the $10,000 125 shootout at the end of the season. Dubach indeed held off Craig in the race for third and fourth. Larry Ward got that second spot, the final transfer to Keith Johnson, and here's what Brian Swink had to say about it. Let's go to Bob Hanna.
Brian Swink, you got off that 125. You're making this 250 riding look easy.
Yeah, you know, I'm doing real well. I like the track. It's real tacky. Suits my riding style, and I would have did way better in the heat race, but I got knocked down. So, you know, I went on, got some more track time, and hopefully do well in the main.
Looking forward to the main. The track suits you.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking real forward to it, and I think if I get a good start, I can do well.
Good luck in the main, Brian.
Thanks a lot.
And with that, we move on to the second and final semifinal. Number 23, Ronnie Tishner, pondering Jeff Glass on his left. And as this race got underway, Tishner jumped out front ahead of Larry Brooks. Number 30, Glass settled into the third spot for what would become a pretty good position battle. Brooks couldn't do anything with the leader, Tishner, and the real fight in this one was for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. It's Glass, Kip Sandell, Gene Newmack, and Cliff Palmer having at it.
Well, that's a passel of talent out there on the racetrack to throw into this muddy situation at one time. A relatively easy heat when you consider that the big names have already qualified and they're not out here to do battle with these guys. But you know what, Dave? That makes the racing all that much better. We've got some fellas here that are really pumped about getting into this main, so they're just mixing it up tooth and nail.
And the guys doing most of the mixing right now are Newmack and Glass as they have at it. And that battle continued throughout much of this semifinal. Look at Newmack with the triple.
He pulled up alongside Glass almost in midair. I don't think Glass had a prayer that Newmack was coming, and by the time he realized it was too late. Everything was too late for anyone other than Ron Tishner.
Well, speaking of late, Tishner had a late night last night as he wins this semifinal over Larry Brooks. We'll find out more about that as we go to Bob Hanna. Check the rest of the transfers. Newmack, Palmer, and Glass are bound for the main event. Let's go trackside and hear from the Hurricane with the winner.
Ronnie, you got third place last week in the National. You're riding good here tonight. How do you feel for the main?
I feel really good. I'm a little tired, though. My sister got married last night, and I didn't fly in early this morning, so it has a little bit of effect on me, but I feel really good tonight out there. I'm flowing good, so hopefully in the main I get a good start and do good.
Don't you know all good motocrossers are supposed to be in bed at 9?
Yeah, I know. I figured my sister only gets married once, so I wanted to be there. But I had fun, and hopefully I'll have fun out here tonight.
Good luck in the main.
Thanks a lot.
And with that, we'll set the final 2 spots in the main event. Highlights of the last chance qualifier, led here by Mike Chamberlain. And in hot pursuit, number 47, Dennis Hawthorne. The highlight or low light, depending on how you look at it, was this moment right here. Fred Andrews leading just a little bit over Kip Sandell, who gets a face full of mud, and Larry will tell us how it happened.
Well, Fred Andrews, it's called lane denial. He just denied the lane from Kip Sandell. He took it away from him, and Sandell had nowhere to go. Ran into him. He fell victim to a face plant.
And Andrews figured that worked so well, he's going to go up and try to do the same thing to number 47, Dennis Hawthorne. Get out your Texas map and see if you can find Flower Mound, Texas. That's why all these Lone Star folks are on their feet for number 47. Andrews gives him a lick right there. And remember, only one of these guys is going to the main event.
Well, that's what it's all about, making the main. If you make the main, even finishing last, you get a sizable paycheck. Pays your gas money and meal money at least. If you don't, Dave, you just truck on home with nothing in your pocket.
And so it is Mike Chamberlain, Dennis Hawthorne, who gained the final 2 transfer spots. Fans loving every minute of it as we prepare for the 125 main event when we come back to Texas Stadium. We're back at Texas Stadium. The rain has abated for a moment. We're ready for the start of the 125 main event. We've talked a lot about starts and good starts and bad starts during the course of this campaign. It is a critical element of Supercross racing as Jeremy McGrath prepares for the start of this race. Bob Hanna has a report.
There are several factors involved in getting a good start in a Supercross race. One is 100% total concentration, and then getting the timing down on his dropping gait. Then a rider has to have smooth throttle control and be able to shift his weight around on that motorcycle for perfect traction going into that first corner. Now, one of the best in the business, Jeff Stanton.
Well, depending on where the other riders are, where they position, and the shortest distance from the start line to the first corner. Well, I'm just basically thinking about what's in front of me, what I have to do, visualizing what I have to go through if I get a good start, and even if I don't get a good start, I'm visualizing what I have who I have to work through, and maybe some of the lines I need to take if I don't get a good start, and just being mentally ready. It's one big mental game out there. You know, what happens beyond the gate is basically a lot to do with the machine. If you have enough horsepower to get out in front and get an inside position and maintaining that. If you get a bad jump, then you have to work through all the people, and that's the hardest part.
On occasion, the rider does everything all right, but still comes out all wrong. The clip you're about to watch is from a 1989 Supercross. Keep your eye on Jeff Glass. He's lined up next to the start box. Watch what happens when the gate malfunctions. Glass is over the bars. He gets up, and watch this. Ouch. His foot's okay, but they had to repair the box.
All right. Thank you very much, Bob Hanna. Thanks, Jeff Glass, for the memory. We are ready to show you highlights here of the 125 championship main event. It's the best of the West against all of the best of the East except one. And we'll explain how that works here in a moment as we prepare to launch the 125s down into turn number 1. The guy to beat definitely is number 1, Jeremy McGrath. Field coming set. The rain has stopped, but the track is slick, and we're underway. Sure enough, as they hit the first turn, number 1 is the man to beat. Jeremy McGrath is the Western Regional Champion. He is the current Western Regional point leader, looking for his second straight title, and he appears to be an easy winner in this one. Watch number 68 moving into second spot. That's Ryan Hughes on the Kawasaki. He gets a challenge here early from number 117, Ezra Lusk, but it's good to see Hughes back and strong. He's coming off an injury.
He missed the entire year of racing in 1991, and you would think that a rider coming back after missing that much time would need more than he has taken to put himself into a competitive form. But Hughes rebounded nicely, and he could be a factor in this one before it's over.
Jeff DeMent, number 575, puts a move on Mike Brown, number 54. That is the race for third and fourth. Now, DeMent is a teenager. He's another Ezra Lusk. In fact, he's a counterpart of Ezra. Look at Brown. Show him the wheel there. DeMent looks back over and says, is that how the big guys do this? And hangs right onto the position. Lusk is right behind him. 2 young teenagers, the heroes of the mini bike ranks. Boom. Lusk gets him in the back and
and Lusk goes down. He paid the price on that one. I'll tell you, maybe he had some help from the crowd in all the hollering, because DeMent is a Texan, and I'll tell you, they love this young man.
Watch this battle now. Number 69 is Kyle Lewis, and he's doing battle with number 250, Grayson Goodman. He's another Texan, and these folks down here love their motocrossers, so they're all pulling for Goodman as he does battle with the Californian Lewis. We'll sneak peeks of number 39, Jimmy Button, who joins into that fray. Jimmy is the only rider to win an Eastern Region race this year, besides the series champ Ryan Swink. And you see the battle with Lewis, and boom, Lewis tips over and knocks them both out of the race. Kyle jumps back on. Notice how high those motorcycles are. When you're a short-legged motocrosser, it could be a long climb to get back on top. Button didn't get back on top. He pulls out of the race.
It's all over with for him. And actually, the point standings in the East have already been decided, so regardless of whether he gets back into it or not, it's not going to be mean a thing to him in terms of position. I think the thing we're looking at right now, Dave, is whether or not the health of Jimmy Button is being threatened. And as it turns out, it's just a minor aggravating type injury that's going to keep him out of this one. He will be back for that season finale in L.A.
We pick up the battle for third. It is downtown Mike Brown along with Jeff DeMent, and DeMent is the crowd favorite. He's a Texas kid, and as we said, he came up through the mini bike ranks battling with Ezra Lusk. Lusk is out of this one, and DeMent really becomes the star of the show. This is a great race. Watch Brown take him up into the hay bales, and Jeff said, wait a minute, I'm not standing for none of that. Watch what's coming up here. This is good.
It is indeed. Now, Brown, number 54, has experience on his side. The youthful exuberance, though, all belongs to Jeff DeMent, and it's going to come out here in just a second. You're going to see a pass that is so spectacular, so unbelievable that you won't believe your eyes. Now watch DeMent on the outside. Look at that. He's out of control. I'm telling you, he should have crashed his brains out there, Dave. How he held that in, I'll never know.
I disagree. He knew exactly what he was doing every inch of the way. DeMent pulls off a great pass and picks up third spot, drops Brown to fourth, and Brown then began a slow fade, basically. Knocked him off his rhythm. Buddy Antonez, number 22, comes up and challenges. He's got a little better line through the whoop-de-doos, and he takes away the fourth spot, drops Brown back to fifth, and that sort of began a move to the back.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I think Brown was shell-shocked. He looked up because there wasn't supposed to be anyone there, and all he saw was the bottom of that motorcycle. That's enough to put anyone back a ways.
I will go ahead and follow that story to its logical conclusion. I agree. I think Brown was shell-shocked. But I'll tell you what happened. Phil Lawrence, number 65, watched DeMent do that, said Brown's ready for this, and he just jumps right over Brown's head and took the final spot in the top five. That is a fifth-place finish for Phil Lawrence. Meanwhile, up front, I'd love to tell you it was a great race. Indeed, it was just a showcase for this guy, Jeremy McGrath, en route to an easy victory.
I think, Dave, the only 125 rider in the country that can touch McGrath right now would be Brian Swink, the guy that won the Eastern contest. And unfortunately, we're not going to see the two of them matched up.
No, indeed. McGrath will take his fifth checkered flag in the Western region this year. Swink has already wrapped up the Eastern region championship. We all anticipated a meeting in the $10,000 to win shootout in the Coliseum. There's the checkered flag. Swink says he's going to pass up the 125 race out there and ride the 250 instead. Great finish for Hughes coming off the injury. DeMent is third, Antonez fourth, and Phil Lawrence fifth. Sixth spot goes to Mike Brown, rounding out the top 10. Chad Pedersen, Tyson Boland, Doug Henry, and Damon Huffman. Here's Bob Hanna with the winner.
Jeremy, you're making it a little boring out there running off and leaving the boys like that.
Yeah, I got a good start, and that was my plan, all the way. I'm here to race each race by race. I know I'm in the point hunt there, but I got a good start, and, I didn't want those guys to catch me.
Are you looking forward to L.A. Coliseum where you can show who's the boss?
Well, I know who the boss is. I'm looking forward to racing it. I really wish Brian would race the race, but unfortunately, I've heard that he's not going to race it. But I'm looking forward to L.A. It's in front of my hometown, and, my family and everyone's there is going to be rooting me on, so it'll be a good race.
Well, good luck next week.
Thanks a lot, Bob.
With that, the Eastern Regional Championship battle is over. There are no more races in the East. Here's the final top five. And the current standings in the West find McGrath a runaway leader. He should clinch next week in San Jose, California. There's the rest of the top five. Now, inexperience. On the right, Jeff DeMent can't get the champagne bottle open. He pays the price big time. We'll be back with the 250 final right after this.
Ahead
lemons have opened. A slippery racetrack will add to the pressure as Jean-Michel Bayle, Jeff Stanton, and Damon Bradshaw battle for the Supercross championship. Just 3 races remaining. How intense is that pressure? Let's go back and update what happened at the Las Vegas Supercross, the last series round. You'll remember, you saw it a week ago on ESPN. Number 1, Jean-Michel Bayle puts a block pass on Jeff Stanton, takes the lead, and goes on to win the race. Meanwhile, Damon Bradshaw was stuck in a battle for 3rd and 4th with number 9, Jeff Matasevich. They had already tangled once in their qualifying heat race, and then this in the main event. Matasevich was outraged. Bradshaw knocked through the hay bales to the tail end of the top 10, fell out of the series point lead. He was nearly a lap down as number 1, Jean-Michel Bayle, turned for the checkered flag, winning the race over Jeff Stanton. As the Honda riders went to victory circle, the AMA officials went to the ESPN videotape to take another look at this incident and determine whether disciplinary action was in order. It didn't take long in the Kawasaki pits to figure out what Matasevich thought. Jeff went looking for the referee to express the opinion that that move was deliberate. Watch the exit from the pit and listen to what he had to say.
Yeah, I want something done about it. I think it's not right. You know, we tangled in the qualifier, and he went down, but that was racing, and you're going to crash racing, but a deliberate takeout. It's not necessary. I don't know if he was out there thinking it was going to be a payback from the qualifier or whatever, but, you know, it's just pretty stupid.
Well, Damon, meanwhile, attributed the move to the difficulty in passing and the pressure that he felt to get around Matasevich before his championship rivals got away.
Well, you know, when the tracks are the way they are, you have to try things like I did. If I wouldn't have felt like I could have won the race, I might not have tried to take that chance. I was a little bit faster through that section than Chicken was, so I tried to go on the inside. I knew there was going to be some banging going on, but, you know, the pass just didn't work for me. It's one of those things, and I had to take the chance. Like I said, if I didn't feel like I could have won, I would have stayed there and waited for his mistake, but I didn't have time. You know, I needed to get behind those guys and start figuring out those lines, and because I need to win races.
Well, meanwhile, Damon's team manager was raising money for a protest against the Hondas.
We believe the bikes to be illegal and not to meet the AMA rules, and the only way to really check it out is to file the protest and let the AMA do the measuring and see how it works out.
While the winning bikes had already been impounded, the swing arms and the frames in question were measured. Rival team managers thought the whole thing was sour grapes.
Well, I think it's we're in a situation where Honda wasn't very competitive at the beginning of the year, and now we end up, you know, getting back in the points chase and getting in the lead, and I think everybody's getting a little tense. And I just think it's an attempt from Yamaha trying to take a stab at Honda to see if there is anything in question. I don't really think there's any. Well, from our side, we don't have anything to hide. We race production motorcycles. We abide by the rules, and we're abiding by the AMA request to tear the bikes down and let them question the parts.
It might seem obvious that this was an attempt to deny Stanton and Bayle of the championship points they won here, though McCarty claimed he didn't know what would happen with the protest.
I'm not really sure. I would imagine that, you know, there would be disqualification if there was the parts were found to be illegal. You know, I'm not really sure. I don't know that anything like this has happened where they've found it, but I guess in the dirt track they've set precedents when the rules aren't followed that there was a disqualification and the rider's eligible to keep the prize money, but the points go away.
Well, as we come back to Dallas, here's the upshot of it all. Bradshaw was fined $1,500. The AMA spent 4 days measuring the frames and determined they were legal. Bottom line is we come to Texas with Jean-Michel Bayle leading the standings by 2 points over number 2 Jeff Stanton. Bradshaw, by virtue of his crash, is third, 6 points out of the lead. Championship pressure, you bet. There's a bunch of it.
Tons and tons. I don't think you can measure it at this point. 3 races to go, 6 points. We have never had this late in the season this type of a championship run, Dave.
And tonight we have rain falling on Texas Stadium as the field prepare for 25 laps of action on what will now be a very, very slippery Texas Stadium circuit. The sign is down, the gate is up, and we're just about ready to go. We're underway. charge to turn one. Great start for Bradshaw. Look out, guys. It's slick out there. Oh, Guy Cooper is on the ground. Ronnie Tichenor is on the ground. A pair of Suzuki's out early here. They'll scramble to get back into action. Meanwhile, up front, Bradshaw takes the lead. Jeff Ward, number 6, into second. Not a great start for number 1, Jean-Michel Bayle, but again, he found that opening and got to third. Stanton's back at about 8th or 10th.
Stanton is the one with trouble right now. He's going to have to work his way through some slower riders. He's going to have to do it on this slippery track that, if this rain continues, Dave, is going to get slicker and slicker, and worse than that, the mud is going to collect on the motorcycles. It's going to be a real problem.
Bradshaw the leader, Ward is second, Bayle is third. 2 of the top 3 in the standings are in the top 3 on the racetrack. Stanton, the big loser, moved by Bayle inside. Can he get around Jeff Ward? Ward hangs on. This could be Jeff Ward's last Supercross race. He surrenders to the fastest man in the game, Jean-Michel Bayle.
Well, the reason it's his last race, or possibly his last race, is a shoulder injury, and that could be the problem out there right now. Difficult to hold on to the motorcycle.
Number 6, Ward, twice a champion in this series, will go in for surgery, perhaps as early as this next week. He wants to be fit for the 500 national season. That'll be his last championship effort before motocross retirement. He says he thinks he can go out and win it. His young teammate, Jeff Matasevich, pursued by another Kawasaki, and that is Mike Kudrowski. And they've got themselves a good battle going here for 4th and 5th. Here comes Kudrowski up alongside for a moment. Matasevich holds on to the spot.
Matasevich, with that leg that was injured at the early part of the season, has really, Dave, now shown signs of full recuperation. He has not only been tough in the early going, but he's been holding on, and he's showing signs of aggression, much more aggressive than he was earlier in the ball game. He just refuses to let Kudrowski around him.
Just a glimpse there of number 15, Brian Swink. He rides 6th in the race, getting that 250 experience that he said repeatedly is so valuable. And you heard Jeremy McGrath alluding to the fact that he'd like to meet Swink in the series finale. The 125 shootout isn't going to happen because Swink's going to stay in the 250 class. And number 15 is definitely learning his 250 lessons as he goes after those 2 Kawasaki's running 4th and 5th. Leads, Bayle is second, Ward is third, and this is the battle for 4th. Jeff Matasevich pursued by Mike Kudrowski. You'll get glimpses of Brian Swink in the middle of that battle. This is the leader. Oh, and Bradshaw's in trouble. He's on the ground. Bradshaw catches the clutch, keeps it running. There goes Bayle into the lead. Another untimely crash for Damon Bradshaw. What a break for Jean-Michel Bayle. Let's take another look at how it happened.
Dave, earlier you mentioned the rain coming through that hole in Texas Stadium would make it slippery, and look at this. He comes around the corner. He gave it just a little too much throttle. He was not able to bring it back, and he couldn't hold the motorcycle upright. He held on to second place. I think he's thankful for that.
Meanwhile, the battle for 4th heats up. Here is Kudrowski making a move on Matasevich. Matasevich up off the pegs for a moment. Give Kudrowski the spot. In the space of half a lap, 1st and 2nd and 4th and 5th positions have been exchanged here. A very competitive Dallas Supercross thus far, in part because of the weather. Here is Swink going to work on Matasevich, and he may get himself into the top 5.
Almost. Matasevich holds on to that 5th spot. We're looking at Kawasaki's running 5, 4, and 3. That in itself could be an interesting battle if they hook up.
Swink has kept a lot of pressure on these guys, but has not yet been better than 6th. The youngster from Michigan, who has already wrapped up the Eastern Region Championship, trying to make a mark on the 250 class and doing very well here this evening. You see how close they are to 4th place, number 3, Mike Kudrowski. Remember, Bayle is comfortably out front. Bradshaw solidly in second after that crash and position swap. And Jeff Stanton is somewhere back behind this battle. Here is the leader, Bayle. Here is Stanton coming through the traffic from a bad start. He's currently 7th on the racetrack. We talked to him before the race about the pressure that the 3 championship contenders are feeling coming into Dallas.
Well, Bayle's got the pressure. He's leading. He's out front, so he's got the pressure to stay there. And, you know, Damon's been the hero all along, so he's got the most amount of pressure. He's got the pressure to come back and try to prove to everybody that he can beat Team Honda. He's had a numerous number of huge point leads and has fallen on his head, so he's probably got the most to prove out of all of us. I'm just sitting in second, just waiting for those guys to do whatever they're going to do, and I'm going to take advantage of it and win these last few races.
Well, he's not going to win from 6th tonight. He's going to have to gas things up. You can bet his mechanic is signaling him to get to the front. Meanwhile, up front, It is Bale and Bradshaw who have swapped that spot by virtue of a Bradshaw crash.
Dave, remember what we talked about at the outset of the program, the consistency that brought Stanton and Bale to where they are, the aggressiveness that has kept Bradshaw alive throughout the series. And now we're looking at riders that have to maybe depart from what they like. Stanton trying to come up, and here's a shot of Stanton. Stanton has to be overly aggressive now because he needs the points. Jean-Michel Bale, on the other hand, out front, is starting to pull away from Damon Bradshaw, so maybe he's turning aggressive also. We could be looking at a flip-flop here.
I got to think Stanton is a huge disappointment tonight. I mean, he cannot afford to run 7th place. I don't care how slick it is if he wants to win this championship.
Absolutely not. He needs to be on the gas, and he has not exhibited that so far. He seems content picking off riders at a rather casual pace, in my opinion. Jeff Stanton should be moving through the pack a lot faster, a lot harder than he is right now.
Meanwhile, his championship rivals run 1-2. We'll be back right after this. Stadium, and we pick up the closest race on the track. It is for third. Number 6, Jeff Ward, demonstrating pretty fair staying power compared to what we've seen thus far this year. Under pressure from Mike Kiedrowski, and Kiedrowski's got the inside line, and I don't think Ward's going to be any match for that. The battle of the Kawasaki teammates, and they swapped the spot. Ward's been pretty salty here tonight, Larry.
Well, he has. As long as he runs up front, Dave, everything seems to be all right. But as soon as something like this happens, he gets past. He has been fading all year long. Mike Kiedrowski doing an excellent job. His teammate getting out in front of him, holding down that number 3 slot. That's who we're watching. But Ward is the guy in question. Dave, you know, he has said, I'm out of here, I'm gone, this is my last year, and I think that he begins to believe it now, and he's just not riding as hard as he could be at this point.
6th and 7th place tightens up. The youngster Swink looking over his shoulder and sees an awful lot of Jeff Stanton right there. I'll bet Swink's as surprised as anybody to have Jeff Stanton behind him tonight. I don't think anybody expected to see Jeff deliver this badly in such a critical event.
And again, I want to point out, as you mentioned, that Stanton is not being aggressive. He's had a couple of opportunities to chop Swink off, to do a block pass, to get by him, and he's not taking advantage of it, Dave. It's like he seems content to be where he is. He's riding too cautiously.
1st and 2nd place are worth 25 and 23 points, respectively. If you're stuck back there in 7th, you're going to get out of here with 14 points, and that means Stanton's got to get the gas on. Swink performing very, very effectively here on the 250. He's destined for this class next year, and he's gaining some valuable experience here running with the front runners. They are already running up into lap traffic there as they put the Texan Dennis Hawthorne behind them. Swink running 6th, and Stanton stuck back in 7th spot. We've not seen Jean-Michel Bale for a while. He is up front and setting sail, running away to what looks like it could be his 4th win of the season.
Absolutely, and a lengthening of the point lead. He currently has 2 points over Stanton. He has 4 more over Bradshaw, a total of 6. He's going to do nothing but put more points between himself and the rest of the field unless something happens here.
Larry Ward is closing up on these two and trying to get a piece of that action. Meanwhile, here's Ward, the other Ward, Jeff Ward, fading into the clutches now of Jeff Matasevich. Again, the teammate battle, and just what you predicted. Once passed, Ward starts to back up.
Yeah, he's just not comfortable tangling with these guys, and I don't blame him. You know, that guy's put in a ton of years, and he deserves this farewell tour, the tributes that have been paid to him. But he's not riding like Jeff Ward.
There is the pass for 4th spot. Give it to Matasevich. And note that Jeff Ward has already signed a deal to drive one of Norm Turley's Indy Lights cars next year, so his racing future is certainly secure. Matasevich back from the injury, showing strength here this evening as he moves up to 4th spot. Can he run down his young teammate Mike Kiedrowski? Meanwhile, you got a glimpse of Swink there closing up, and I expect that probably Ward is going to quickly feel the pressure. Yeah, here he comes. This is Swink, and Stanton should be right behind him, and they're both going to get by in one move, it looks like. Swink opens the door, Stanton squirts right through.
I guarantee you 1 year ago that never would have happened. There'd have been a lot of metal clashing and bouncing off each other before you passed Jeff Ward that easily.
So this is now the battle for 5th and 6th. And again, it remains a terrible, terrible problem for Jeff Stanton. If he settles for this kind of finish tonight, this one race could cost him a shot at the championship. Only 2 more to go for points after this.
You know, he needs to make something happen, and all he's doing is following. And there is no way that you can let those guys run away this way without making an attempt if you want to be the champion. I don't know what's running through Stanton's mind, but he should be up there letting it hang out, knocking on the door. There are only 2 races left, and he cannot afford to finish this far back.
Whoa, and look at that swing. Hit the top of that jump with the case. This case did, as they say in Supercross, and that opens the door for Stanton. He goes inside the top 5. We'll be right back. Dallas, and here is the second-place man, winner of 7 races this season, Damon Bradshaw, trying to catch number 1, Jean-Michel Bayle. He had Bayle in second spot early in the race. Bradshaw slipped down, let the lead get away. If Bayle wins tonight, he's going to be a tough cat to beat in the championship standings, but Bradshaw is closing, and Brian Lunas is counting the seconds here.
I guess he's counting the seconds, and so is the rest of the Yamaha camp. We go back to that crash, Dave, and he had fallen considerably off the pace. He has turned the wick up considerably the last few laps.
The sign from Brian Lunas says the pace is good. What does he mean by that?
That would indicate to me that Bradshaw is running at a good speed, pace good, and it's Bayle that is slowing the pace, so Bradshaw's catching him.
And as we check the interval from first to second, let's see just how far back Damon Bradshaw is. It's the length of a straightaway on the racetrack. It's under 3.5 seconds, and Bayle is suddenly under some pressure. He's had a cakewalk here since Damon fell off in the early laps. You see him looking back over his shoulder to see what the interval is. Bayle hit a ton on the top of that jump. I can't believe he kept the motorcycle upright. That hurt to watch. Bradshaw will be right there. A huge mistake for Jean-Michel Bayle.
Dave, he was completely off the motorcycle. His left leg was on the right side of the bike.
Damon Bradshaw is right on Jean-Michel Bayle's rear wheel, and I'm not sure Bayle's going to have anything for him here. Bradshaw can taste blood. Bayle is a hurting puppy. There's the swap of the lead. Damon Bradshaw picks himself up off the ground to regain the lead at Texas Stadium on a huge bobble by Jean-Michel Bayle. Let's go back and take another look at what happened to Bayle.
Jean-Michel Bayle has to be riding hurt right now, Dave. The wind is completely gone from him. Can he recover? Watch this. Watch when he comes down. Look at this. He knows he's going to hit, and wham, he slides forward. Oh, look at that, off the motorcycle. I cannot believe the composure of that man in that situation to be able to hold on to the bike and still hold on to that number 2 spot. Oh, does he hurt.
It was a spectacular save. He's looked back over his shoulder a couple of times. He wants to know where third place is. He knows he can't run with Bradshaw. Damon is healthy. Jean-Michel is hurt. Well, and there's a little bobble by Bradshaw. These guys are really riding out on the razor edge of traction here tonight on this slippery Dallas track. You see the interval stretching. Bayle at this point is just hoping to preserve second place.
What we're also preserving, Dave, is the points chase right down to the wire. The guys that are involved in this tremendously tight battle are running up front, with the exception of Stanton. He's the odd man out right now.
Well, if Bayle can preserve a second-place finish here, he can actually hold on to the championship point lead with just 2 races remaining. And given the hit that he took a lap ago, I have to believe that he would be very, very content with that right now. Bayle, really spectacular here in saving that Honda from what, for any lesser rider, would certainly have been a magnificent crash. Instead, he has managed to hang on to the second spot. You can see the rain. It has been a light rain throughout most of this main event. It has caused the track to be a little bit slippery. We haven't seen that buildup of mud on the bikes that we talked about, but Bayle's having trouble seeing, and there you see him throw the goggles away.
I don't understand that move. Although they're not getting a great amount of mud or debris thrown back in their face, it only takes just a little bit. So unless he had trouble with his tear-off system on the goggles, I do not understand why he would throw them away, unless he's in a lot of pain, David. He thinks that getting rid of the goggles will ease that pain.
Well, as hard as he hit, I'm surprised he didn't shake those goggles right off. We'll be back with the finish right after this. Stadium in Dallas, Mike Kiedrowski, the third-place man, will try to make a late race run at the wounded Jean-Michel Bayle and perhaps not only improve his own lot in life, but also knock Bayle out of the championship point lead. The laps are winding down here. Kiedrowski has shed his Kawasaki pursuers and is now all alone in third. I don't think he's close enough to make the move. No. Up front, the white flag flies for Damon Bradshaw.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Jeff Stanton has moved into the number 4 position. So ironically, we came into this race with a 6-point gap between first, second, and third, and we're going to leave. Difference being, Jeff Stanton slid from second down to third. If they stay, Dave, the way they are right now.
Well, they're into the final lap, and I think the only thing that could befall one of the front runners now would be another one of those slick crash tip-overs that we saw Damon Bradshaw suffer early on. If you've just joined us, Bradshaw has picked himself up off the ground to win the race over Jean-Michel Bayle, who by every standard of Supercross should have been on the ground, and saved it miraculously.
No wonder he's going road racing. You don't have to look forward to something like that happening out of the pavement.
All right, up and over for a record-tying 8th win of the 1992 season. Damon Bradshaw wins it. Bayle happy to survive in second. Holds on to the series point lead. Kedrowski collects third. Stanton moves up to fourth. Larry Ward is fifth. Rounding out the Dallas top 10 this evening, Brian Swink, Guy Cooper, Doug Dubach, Mike Craig, and Jeff Matasevich. Let's hear from the winner with Bob Hanna.
David, you were a little angry after the qualifier today. You weren't quite up to par. You were a little disappointed. After this main, you look a little happier.
Yeah, I definitely feel a lot happier. You know, the qualifier means a little bit. I was able to win the fastest qualifier, but you know, I knew I didn't ride as well as Damon Bradshaw could, and in the main event, I put together those things that I needed to win. Felt really strong. We made a couple adjustments for the mud, and it worked out for the best of us.
Were you worried out there when you made a mistake and went back to second?
Well, I was. You know, I wasn't content with second, but I said I'm going to try not to take any chances. I'm going to keep working hard, and you know, it paid off. He made a mistake, and I was kind of hoping for that.
You looking forward to next week?
Yeah, I sure am. I'm ready to get this thing over with.
Good job. Good luck next week, Dan.
Thanks a lot.
Well, check out the standings. 6 points still separate the top 3. Bradshaw and Stanton trade places. Bayle is the leader as we head for San Jose next weekend. Damon Bradshaw has tied Jean-Michel Bayle's record for single-season wins with 8. This is going to be a showdown, Larry.
Dave, indeed it is, and I can't wait. 2 rounds to go. The best 3 riders that I consider the best 3 in the world tangling for that championship. A lot of bucks at stake.
Bradshaw, the winner in Dallas, will be back next week from San Jose, California. I'm Dave Despain for Bob Hanna and Larry Myers. Thanks much for being part of the excitement of Supercross.